Hey guys, welcome to today's video where we'll be previewing the Virginia Tech Hokies, one of the frontrunners to play in the ACC championship game. For last year's prediction, I had them going 8-4 with a 4-4 conference record, and they actually went 6-6 with a 5-3 conference record. They had some head-scratching losses, particularly the one to Marshall, but they bring back a veteran team with a lot of starters and production returning, and so they look to have some consistency at a very high level. For departures, cornerback Derek Canteen is gone, linebacker J.R. Walker, tight end Daquan Wright, and wide receiver Dwayne Lofton. For arrivals, they get a lot of defensive linemen, particularly Curtis Perry, Kelvin Gilliam Jr., and Aeneas Peebles. Like I said, they have a lot of returning starters. 20 of the 22 starters from offense and defense are back. They have a very favorable schedule where they play Clemson in Miami as the only ranked teams on their schedule. They avoid Florida State. They avoid NC State, who are in contention for the ACC championship game as well. They have a really good defense coming back from last year. They were the number 2 overall defense in the conference last year. I would say that in this upcoming season, they're looking to create more turnovers, particularly interceptions. They were dead last in the conference when it came to that stat. Offensively, the line has 4 of the 5 starters coming back, so they've all played together for a while. They'll have really good chemistry playing together. Cornerback Kyron Drones, I will expect him to step up and progress even further from last year. He had a 58% completion percentage, which I'll expect to be higher this year. He threw 17 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions, which is a really good ratio. And it'll probably be even better this year. Ran for 818 yards and 5 touchdowns. I would believe that he would probably have more rushing touchdowns this year and maybe 1 or 2 more passing touchdowns. And of course, the rushing attack with Bashal Tootin as the starter, he got 863 yards last year and 10 scores. I could definitely see him being a 1,000-yard rusher this year. He was a phenomenal running back for Virginia Tech this past year. And really, the offensive consistency will make or break Virginia Tech's season, and I would expect them to be more consistent with the experience that they're bringing back. So let's get into the schedule. You start off week 1 against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is an SEC opponent, but not a SEC opponent like Alabama or even Auburn or Florida, where you would expect them to have quite a bit of talent that you would have to game plan and scheme for. Vanderbilt is the bottom of the barrel of the SEC. I don't see you guys having any problem with them. Even though you're on the road, you're a much better opponent, much better football team put together, much more complete team. I think you easily get the win against the Commodores. Then you take on Marshall, and last year Marshall upset you. Even though you were on the road, you had an opportunity to win that game, and one of the few times that you had a critical mistake late in the game from Kyron Drones that cost you the game. And I expect you to come in with a vengeance in this game. You're at home. A lot of people were really upset at that loss that you had last year, and I think you get revenge against the Thundering Herd, and you get the win. Then you go on the road at Old Dominion. A few years ago, Old Dominion upset Virginia Tech, and I would watch out for this game. You never really know in college football, but even though you're on the road, it is still Old Dominion. You've got a lot of experience coming back. I don't expect them to overlook many opponents, if at all, and I think you get the win. You take on Rutgers from the Big Ten. You're at home. People aren't really expecting much from Rutgers, neither am I. Again, with all the experience that you have, I see you taking care of business against the Scarlet Knights. Then you take on Miami on the road. This is a very tough game against Cam Ward and what Mario Cristobal is building in South Florida. I think they are going to be a very good team as well. This will be a very entertaining game on a Friday night, a short week to prepare for the Hurricanes. There's going to be a lot of points in this game, and I think the Hurricanes beat you to hand you your first loss. You come back and play at Stanford, and although this will be a tough game simply because of how far it is to travel, Stanford, not a lot of talent there. They do have some decent players with Eric Iomanor being one of them, but I think you guys will be able to get the job done and get the win on the farm. Then you have your bye week, and you come back and you play Boston College. Boston College is an interesting team this year with Bill O'Brien there in his first season as the head coach. He'll have a very interesting offensive scheme drawn up for Thomas Castellanos and that BC offense. The BC defense is very capable, as we saw last year with their performance against Florida State, who would eventually be the ACC champion. I think they'll be a formidable team, but since you have that bye week to prepare, I'll give you the win. Then you take on Georgia Tech. Again, another very capable team with Haynes King at quarterback, Jamal Haynes at running back, and Eric Singleton Jr. at wide receiver. This stretch of games between Boston College, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, and Clemson is going to be the most important for Virginia Tech this season because all these opponents are very good in quality. They have playmakers. Boston College has Thomas Castellanos. Georgia Tech has those players that I mentioned before. Syracuse, they'll have Kyle McCord and Aronde Gadsden. And Clemson, although not as threatening offensively without Will Shipley, still has some playmakers with Phil Maffa and Cade Klubnik, who is able to make some plays at certain times, and just that defense in general. So really, you've got to be looking out for these 4 games. It's the most important stretch for Virginia Tech. It's going to make or break their season. But on that note, I think you get the win against the Jackets. Then you go on the road at Syracuse, who is under the direction of a new head coach. I think that's going to be their big statement win this year to show that it was the right hire. I think they beat you on the road. And then you come back and you play Clemson at home. A huge game. Clemson has been the standard for the past 6 or 7 years, barring last year when the ACC was won by Florida State. And I think this is where you showcase the momentum that you have under Brent Pry with these players coming back and this staff, and you show that you're going to be a contender again in this conference, and you beat the Tigers at home. Probably the most exciting game the entire season for Virginia Tech fans. And this will definitely be a night game for Virginia Tech. And Lane Stadium will be rocking. The crowd will be behind the team. And you get a big emotional win against Clemson, which is good because you have a bye week right after to get all those emotions out and focus up again against Duke. No hangover situation. So you come out of the bye week, you play Duke on the road. Not a very exciting team for Duke as compared to last year after losing Elko and hiring Manny Diaz. And I'll give you the win at Duke because Duke, if you've seen my video, they lost a lot of linemen both offensively and defensively. And even though they'll be battle-tested at this point in the season, I don't think it'll be enough to shape up to your lines of scrimmage both offensively and defensively. And you should take care of business against the Blue Devils. And then you finish off the year in the state rivalry game against Virginia. Virginia is still in their building process with Tony Elliott, and I don't see you guys having any problem against them. You'll easily get the win. And so I have you going 10-2 with a 6-2 conference record, which with my prediction will have you missing out on the ACC championship game, but really I can see you guys going 11-1. I can see you winning that Syracuse game. But then again, I can just as easily see you losing the Clemson game, losing the Georgia Tech game, losing the Boston College game. But I think Virginia Tech is going to be a very, very good team this year. And 10-2, I think, is the best record with this schedule and these players, and I'm very confident in that prediction. So I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.